I never thought a single moment could change my entire view of love or of trust. But that afternoon, sitting in that crowded cafe, it happened. She smiled at me like she knew something I didn't, and I, foolishly, believed her. I believed her so much that when she left with my money, I barely even noticed at first. Not because I didn't care, but because something in her eyes made me freeze, like she had pulled me into a story I wasn't allowed to escape. My name is Ayan, and I've always considered myself careful, responsible, maybe even a little too cautious when it comes to people. But there's a point where even the most careful person can be blindsided, and I reached that point the day she walked into my life. She had this way of making everything seem simple, easy, effortless, until it wasn't. I remember her laughter echoing across the small cafe, bright and light, while I nervously checked my phone, wondering if I'd made the right choice. And then, just like that, she was gone. Gone with the money I had trusted her with. Gone with a smile that haunted me for weeks. I sat there staring at my empty cup, my thoughts racing faster than my heartbeat. How could someone do that? How could someone I thought I knew just disappear? I tried to make sense of it, to convince myself that maybe it was a mistake, maybe there was an explanation, but deep down, I already knew the truth. She had taken advantage of me. For days, I replayed every interaction, every word, every glance, trying to understand where I went wrong. Friends told me to move on, to forget her, to stop being foolish. But something inside me refused. Not because I wanted the money back. No, that wasn't it. But because there was this nagging thought I couldn't shake. What if there was more to her than just deceit? What if her leaving wasn't the end, but the beginning of something I wasn't ready to see yet? And then she introduced me to her younger cousin. I didn't know it at the time, but that small twist would shift everything. The girl who appeared seemed like the exact opposite of her. Gentle, sincere, with a smile that didn't hide secrets. Her presence made me question everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and second chances. Could it really be possible to feel hope again after being burned? Or was I just setting myself up to be hurt all over again? I was about to find out. And when I did, nothing would ever feel the same. But the strange part, what I couldn't explain, was that even as I felt cautious, even as my mind screamed at me to walk away, my heart, it wanted to believe. Little did I know, the story was only beginning. And the next moment, the next choice, would change my life forever. After that day at the cafe, my life felt different. Not just because I'd been tricked, but because something inside me had shifted. I realized how easily I could be fooled, and yet how stubbornly I refused to close myself off entirely. I wanted to understand her, the one who had vanished with my money. But more than that, I wanted to see if anyone could ever be the opposite. Someone genuine, someone I could actually trust. Her cousin entered my life quietly. Her name was Layla, and she was nothing like her. Where her older cousin had been bold, flashy, and impossible to read, Layla was soft-spoken, careful, but with a warmth that drew people in without trying. I first met her when I reluctantly agreed to return some papers her cousin had left behind. A meaningless gesture, really, but it was enough to put me in the same room with her. Layla had these eyes that seemed to look past the surface. She didn't smile to manipulate you or charm you. She smiled because she genuinely wanted to. I couldn't help noticing small things, the way she listened without interrupting, the way she remembered tiny details about people, the way her laughter came without hesitation. It was the kind of thing that made you feel safe, even if only for a moment. As days passed, I started seeing her more often, usually by coincidence, sometimes intentionally. At first, I told myself it was curiosity, nothing more. But the more I saw her, the more I realized that she wasn't just a replacement for the hurt I'd felt. She was a person entirely her own, someone who could bring light into the darkness that her cousin had left behind. And I, despite all my caution, found myself wanting that light. But life rarely gives clarity without complications. There was tension in every interaction because the memory of being betrayed lingered. Every laugh, every kind word, carried the shadow of doubt. Could I trust her? Or was this just another setup, another cruel game? My friends warned me to stop, told me I was foolish to get close again. But something in me refused to listen. I couldn't explain why, but every time I was near Layla, I felt hope stirring again, a delicate, almost terrifying hope. And yet, I also felt fear creeping in, because her presence reminded me of the very thing I was trying to escape. The older cousin, the money, the betrayal. It was as if the past was whispering, warning me not to get too comfortable. And then one evening, as I watched her quietly read in the cafe where we first met, something happened that made me realize this wasn't just about the past anymore. There was a subtle, unspoken connection growing between us, a closeness that made my heart race even though my mind screamed for caution. I wanted to trust her, but could I? Could I allow myself to believe in love again, after everything that had happened? Or was I walking straight into another heartbreak without even realizing it? And just when I thought I was beginning to understand, a message arrived on my phone, one that would throw everything I believed about trust and love into question. That message, I'll never forget it. It was from her older cousin. Just 4 words, but they hit me like a punch. "We need to talk." My stomach sank. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, pretending it didn't exist, but curiosity and fear twisted together until I had no choice but to respond. I met her later that evening at a quiet park near the river. The air was heavy, the kind that presses down on your chest without warning. She was there, leaning against the railing, smiling like nothing had happened, as if stealing my money was just a minor inconvenience. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream. But instead, I found myself frozen, unsure how to react. She started talking, her words flowing like honey, sweet but dangerous. She explained, she apologized, she offered excuses that made sense on the surface but felt hollow underneath. I listened, but every sentence pulled me deeper into a storm of confusion. How could someone lie so convincingly? How could I have trusted her so blindly? Every memory of her laughter, every casual touch, every promise came rushing back, twisting into a knot I couldn't unravel. And then she dropped a bomb I wasn't ready for. She told me I wasn't the only one, that others had trusted her too, that maybe I wasn't special at all. My chest tightened. Betrayal isn't just about losing something. It's about realizing that what you thought was unique, meaningful, real, might have been a lie from the start. But the worst part? She didn't leave. Not immediately. She lingered, smiling that same impossible smile. And that's when I noticed her cousin, Layla, standing a few feet away. Watching. Not hiding. Watching me. The same way she always had. With those honest eyes that seemed to see everything. Suddenly, my feelings collided. Anger, guilt, attraction, fear, they all tangled into one impossible mess. Could I really trust Layla, knowing she was related to someone who had hurt me so deeply? Could I allow myself to feel anything at all when the shadow of her cousin was looming over every interaction? I wanted answers, but the answers weren't coming. Instead, the silence between the three of us stretched, heavy and suffocating. And then, just as I thought I might finally understand something, her older cousin leaned closer and whispered something I wasn't supposed to hear, a secret that changed everything I thought I knew about the situation. I froze. My heart raced. And in that moment, I realized nothing was simple anymore. After that night at the park, everything changed. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had overheard, the secret that the older cousin had whispered. It gnawed at me, eating through every rational thought I had, making every memory of her, every interaction with Layla, feel uncertain. Was everything real? Or had I been living inside a lie from the start? Layla, of course, didn't know. She was herself, gentle, kind, and unknowingly stirring feelings in me that I hadn't felt in years. But now, every smile she gave, every laugh that reached my ears, felt loaded with potential danger. I wanted to reach out, to talk to her, to explain myself. But the moment I was near her, the shadow of her cousin loomed large in my mind, whispering doubts I couldn't shake. And the older cousin, she didn't just disappear after that night. She kept appearing in unexpected ways. Messages, sudden phone calls, fleeting encounters. Every time I thought I was moving on, she reminded me of what I had lost, and worse, of what I might lose again. It was as if she was a storm on the horizon, dark clouds I couldn't escape no matter how far I ran. One evening, Layla invited me to dinner at a small, quiet restaurant. I hesitated, my chest tight with a mix of excitement and fear. I couldn't tell her about the older cousin, not yet. I didn't even fully understand it myself. But I went, because despite everything, I was drawn to her. And maybe, just maybe, I needed someone to make me feel safe again. Dinner started pleasantly enough. We laughed over shared stories, subtle jokes, little glimpses of connection. I felt my heart loosen for the first time in weeks. She was real, honest, human, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to hope. Maybe not everything was ruined. Maybe trust could start again, slowly, carefully. But then, a sudden ping from my phone shattered the fragile calm. A photo from the older cousin. It showed Layla, smiling, innocent-looking, but next to her was something I didn't understand. A note, folded carefully, with handwriting I recognized. The message wasn't meant for me, or was it? My hands shook as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. Suddenly, all the little coincidences, all the strange timing of encounters, the feeling that I was being watched, clicked into place. But I couldn't tell if I had discovered a truth or simply imagined it. My mind raced. Was Layla involved somehow? Or was this another manipulation, another test? I looked across the table at her. She was laughing, completely unaware of what I had just seen. My chest tightened, my pulse shot through the roof, and a voice in the back of my mind whispered, "Everything is about to change. Everything you thought you knew is about to be tested." And in that moment, I realized the secret I had glimpsed wasn't small. It wasn't just about money or trust. It was something far bigger, something that could ruin everything, or finally explain it. But the truth, the full truth, wasn't ready to show itself yet. I thought I had understood the situation. I thought I had figured out the boundaries, the lines between deception and honesty. But I was wrong. That night, after dinner, I went to the cafe where it all began, hoping to make sense of the photo, hoping to catch a clue I had missed. And there she was, Layla's cousin. Only this time, she wasn't alone. Next to her stood Layla, smiling, but not the gentle, innocent smile I had grown to trust. There was something else there, a shared glance, a subtle nod, something that made my chest tighten with disbelief. The older cousin turned to me, her eyes glinting. "You think you've been careful," she said, voice low, almost teasing. "But the truth is far bigger than money, and far closer than you imagine." I froze. My heart raced. Layla involved? No, it couldn't be. She couldn't betray me like that. And yet, the evidence was right there, in the quiet exchange I wasn't meant to see. Everything I believed about trust, about love, about second chances, was suddenly unraveling. And in that instant, I realized nothing was safe anymore. Not my heart, not my hope, not even Layla. The confrontation happened faster than I could process. I followed them to an alley behind the cafe, my chest tight, my mind racing. The older cousin turned, and there it was, the look I dreaded and needed all at once. A mixture of amusement and challenge, as if daring me to step closer, to finally face the truth. "Why are you following us?" she asked, voice dripping with mockery. I need answers," I stammered. My eyes shifted to Layla. She looked calm, almost serene, but there was a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. My heart ached at the thought of betrayal, but I forced myself to ask the question I'd been holding back. "Were you part of this? Did you know?" Layla's gaze softened. "I never wanted you to find out this way," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But there's more to her than you know, and more to me than you think." I felt my mind spin. The older cousin smirked, stepping closer. "You thought this was simple, money, trust, heartbreak. But it's bigger. This is about choices, loyalty, and who you really believe in." Then it all hit me at once. The photo, the notes, the secret exchanges. I realized the truth wasn't what I had feared. Layla had been protecting me. All along. She had known about her cousin's schemes, her manipulations, and she had stayed close. Not to deceive me, but to keep me safe, to guide me through the mess her cousin had created. Relief and disbelief crashed over me simultaneously. I wanted to reach out, to grab her, to tell her everything I felt. And just as I stepped forward, the older cousin lunged, not at me, but at a hidden envelope clutched in my pocket. Somehow, she had followed me, waiting for the right moment. In the scuffle, the envelope tore open. Inside were documents I hadn't even realized I had. Proof of debts, lies, and manipulations. Everything her cousin had tried to hide, now exposed. I looked at Layla, her eyes steady, unwavering, and for the first time in weeks, I felt clarity. But just as I was about to breathe, just as I thought it was over, my phone buzzed. A new message. From an unknown number. "You think this is the end, but it's only the beginning." My stomach sank. My heart raced. And I realized the story wasn't finished yet. The days that followed were quieter, but they weren't easy. The older cousin had disappeared, at least for now, leaving me to process everything that had happened. The envelope, the documents, the secrets, it all sat on my desk, a reminder of how fragile trust can be and how easily one person's choices can ripple through another's life. Layla and I met again, this time at the park where I had first glimpsed hope in her eyes. The air felt different, lighter somehow, as if the chaos of the past weeks had lifted just enough to allow a small bit of peace. She didn't rush me. She didn't offer easy explanations. Instead, she simply sat beside me, her presence grounding me in a way I hadn't realized I needed. "I'm sorry you had to see everything the way you did," she said softly. "I never wanted you to feel betrayed. I just couldn't let her hurt you again." Her words hit me harder than anything her cousin had ever done, because for the first time, I understood. Layla wasn't a replacement. She wasn't a consolation prize for my heartbreak. She had been there all along, quietly guiding me, giving me a chance to feel again, even when I thought I couldn't. I took her hand. It felt familiar and new at the same time, like coming home after a long journey, but realizing home had changed in all the right ways. I don't know what I would have done without you," I admitted. I was so lost. "And now, I feel like maybe I can trust again. Maybe I can love again." She smiled, a small, warm curve of her lips that reached her eyes. "Love isn't about never being hurt," she said. "It's about finding someone worth taking the risk for. And sometimes, the people we're meant to trust the most are the ones who wait patiently, even when we can't see them clearly." We stayed there for hours, talking, laughing quietly, letting the silence fill the gaps that had once been heavy with fear and uncertainty. For the first time, I realized that the past, the betrayal, the fear, the chaos, didn't have to define me. I could carry it with me, yes, but it didn't have to weigh me down. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt a calm I hadn't known in weeks. The older cousin's schemes, the money, the secrets, they were behind me now. What mattered was the present and the fragile, beautiful connection I had found with Layla. And yet, as I glanced at my phone, I couldn't help but notice a small, unread message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat, a reminder that life rarely offers complete closure. But for the first time, I didn't panic. Because no matter what came next, I knew one thing. I wasn't alone. Love, I realized, wasn't just about trust or safety. It was about hope. And with her by my side, I was ready to embrace it. Even if the world decided to throw one last twist my way. The future was uncertain, yes. Messy, complicated, unpredictable. But for the first time in a long time, it felt worth believing in.